I challenge you to a dance-off. Hands off, no trash talk, no backwalk on the blacktop. Just me, you, that's all. No catcalls, no tag team, no mascots right now. Dance off. Get on the floor. Get on the floor. I challenge you to a dance-off. Anyway, that is my poetry for you today. Do you like it?
The actions that went with that were really priceless.
I have this daydream where I just walk up to people and challenge them to a dance off. Like the old, the young, bedridden, doesn't matter. And I just am I challenge you to a dance off. That's one of my favorite songs. It gets me going on the treadmill. Anyway, when I was thinking about George Washington, I thought about a dance off.
I'm making my way through the drip, drip, drop.
Welcome, everyone, to the Cydni and Sher Podcast, a.k.a. the Cydni and Sher Dance Off. I challenge you to a dance off.
I think that I definitely will lose that dance off, but I'll enjoy watching you.
I don't think so. After going through this episode, I feel like you're going to be so inspired to dance. And after listening to me talk, everyone will prefer to dance over listening to me talk. Sorry. All because one time I said you appreciate not having a sore throat.
Cydni is going to have a sore throat forever now.
Don't say that, please.
Okay, tomorrow you're going to be all better.
If it does continue, I will get better at dancing. I'll take it as a sign that God was like, I've always wanted you to be a dancer. The other day, my son and I were listening to some classical music, and I was trying to have him tell me what he thought of, what was the story as we were painting together. We both did terrible. We both quit. We were like, painting is stupid. And he thought he'd do good because he likes Bob Ross on his TV 24/7. So he was like, I got this. No, he didn't. So I told him to pay attention better to Bob Ross. But anyway, I was like, what do you hear when you hear this song? What's the story? And I was coming up with all these ideas. And this one, it's about a ballerina. There's a ballerina. She's just a little girl, but she dreams of being a ballerina. And then her mom walks in the door and is like, Cydni, you'll never be a ballerina. And then Rock was like, whoa, Mom. And I was like, Amanda. He's like, that's why you paint better. You have more trauma. I'm like, just wait, buddy.
You're doing whatever you can to help out in that area.
To help him be more creative and funny. I was like, your painting is stupid.
Good character building, Cydni.
After all that Bob Ross and that's all you got. What a disgrace. It's going to help him. Those are all my intros. Sher, what do you got?
Well, Cydni, we're going to continue with our summer series. We are combining history with joy because as we've learned, happiness is our birthright. So today we are going to be talking about one of my very favorites, George Washington. You knew it was coming.
I did because you're wearing a George Washington t-shirt and a USA hat.
I am all decked out
You
today.
really are.
Thank you.
You brought it.
I'm wearing the same clothes I wore yesterday and I needed to wear a hat because my hair is sticking up in the air.
Right. So outfit of the day for Sher is American.
That's right.
And then later we're going to turn on the Star Spangled Banner and have a dance off.
Great idea. I love it. So a few facts about George Washington to get us started. He wrote down 110 rules of civility, and he memorized these when he was 14 years old because he didn't feel like he was disciplined enough at the age of 14. And so he memorized all of these rules, and this was a way to act and behave in polite society. So this is one of the reasons why everyone trusted him, is because truly he did everything he could to have self-mastery. And he started that journey at the age of 14. He also became the colony's general when we hadn't even declared our independence yet. He was the general for a full year before the Declaration of Independence was signed. So he was the main trader of Great Britain. He was out there all by himself. Nobody had put their name to the Declaration of Independence yet, so he was like a sitting duck to the British, and they definitely wanted his head. But he did it anyway because he believed in natural rights and agency. Also, the story of him having wooden teeth, that is not true. His dentures were made from ivory, human teeth, and animal bone. Gross.
That's so much better than wood.
Right? That's exactly what I was thinking. He had constant dental problems, and he only had one natural tooth by the time he was president.
The rest were raccoons. He's like, this raccoon tooth is really giving me a problem.
That is so disgusting.
That really is. And I once read that they took teeth from dead people.
Oh, I'm grateful that we live during this time.
Right?
I like being a spoiled brat.
I love a time where we're constantly plagued with disease. It's so much better.
Says the woman with the sore throat.
I know, that's what I mean.
So after leaving office, he opened one of the largest whiskey distilleries in America at his home at Mount Vernon. He produced nearly 11,000 gallons of whiskey in the year 1799. That's pretty impressive.
I think so. And I read that he paid people like his doctors and lawyers and such with whiskey.
Yeah, he really loved his whiskey. And if you get the chance, you got to go to Mount Vernon. It is so incredible. And they talk about his whiskey production and all of that there. It's really cool.
I think I would like to be paid in whiskey as a mother. That should be a thing.
Do you want your kids to pay you in whiskey?
I don't
or just
know
random people?
I mean, George Washington was the president, so maybe Trump. Trump should pay us stay-at-home moms. He needs to pay us in whiskey. Maybe more moms would do it if we got paid in whiskey.
Maybe you should write a letter to him. He
I'm
might
going
do
to. So I don't know how that doesn't make sense.
All right. Some more facts about George Washington. He never lived in the White House. The White House wasn't completed yet. So he first lived in New York City while he was the president and then moved to Philadelphia. He did help design Washington, D.C. and the White House, though. George Washington also loved farming. He actually didn't really want to be president. Washington just wanted to be a farmer. He experimented with crop rotations, composting. He kept detailed records of his agricultural experiments, and he was definitely more passionate about farming than politics. Again, that's all he wanted to do, but he kept being asked to serve his country, and so he would do it. I think that's the best kind of political leader, is someone who doesn't really want to do it. That would be great for all politicians to feel that way. Ironically, Washington warned us about political parties in his farewell address. He worried that political parties would divide the country because they would be more concerned about their political party's power and not the country.
I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, right?
I don't see that.
Yeah, me either. This hasn't happened yet. He was totally wrong. So he is the only U.S. president never to join a political party.
So he's a fence sitter.
That's right. Or he was a peacemaker.
However you want to look at it.
Okay, he voluntarily gave up power, not once, but twice. After leading the army as its general to victory, he resigned as general in 1783 rather than seize power. Generals did not do that. They just kept going and conquering. George Washington resigned. And then again, after a second term in office as president in 1797, he refused a third presidential term and he stepped down again. And King George III reportedly said that if George Washington did that, he would be the greatest man in the world. So I guess he was the greatest man in the world.
I'm so glad that's finally settled.
King George III declared it, so it must be true.
I don't know. Reba has that song about the greatest man she never knew, unless it was the same person.
She probably never knew George Washington.
Okay, that makes sense now. I think I've had too many cough drops. Can your brain stop functioning?
Apparently it can. But today, Cydni, we are going to focus on George Washington's secret talent.
Wait. You forgot one more very important fact about him.
Oh, good. What is it?
That he was in Hamilton.
Why do you do this to me? Why?
He had a great solo.
You're just torturing me. So earlier this year, we discussed that we can't be happy all the time. And we used Ecclesiastes chapter 3, where it says, there's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. That's right. We didn't understand why dance was the opposite of mourn, but I think we have the answer to why the opposite of mourn is dancing now. And Washington is going to explain that to us because Washington's secret talent was dancing.
I love this. Now it ties together with the beginning poem. People were probably like, this is going to tie in somewhere. Or maybe at this point, they're like, it's probably not going to tie in, but let's just continue.
Well, that's what I thought. So Washington was considered a graceful and skilled dancer, especially at formal balls and gatherings. From the time he was just a kid to his years as president, he often attended dances. The minuet was his favorite. The minuet is a slow, elegant, and refined partner dance requiring perfect posture and poise.
Oh man, I bet he wishes he was around during TikTok. He would have loved that.
I also think that minuet describes both of us, don't you think?
Yeah. Everything about this, like graceful, elegant, that's us.
Or not. All right. Even during times of war, George Washington made sure to dance during winter encampments. Washington once danced for 3 straight hours at a ball in honor of his troops, and he did this just to make them happy. At the 1779 Morristown winter encampment, he attended nearly every dance hosted by the locals. Martha Washington was usually his dance partner, of course, but young women would hope to be his partner, and he rarely declined their invitation. He was known to dance with every woman that wanted to dance with him, and he wouldn't leave the event until all the women were happy.
What a man.
Indeed.
I'm just here to make them happy. Let me hold your body close against mine. Martha, don't worry about this. It's just to make them happy.
The sacrifices.
The sacrifice.
This is how Miss Charlotte Chambers described meeting President George Washington to her mother, Mrs. James Chambers, in a letter dated Wednesday, February 25th, 1795. She said, "We were not long seated when General Washington entered and bowed to the ladies as he passed round the room. 'He comes, the hero comes,' involuntarily but softly exclaimed. When he bowed to me, I could scarcely resist the impulse of my heart that almost burst through my bosom to meet him."
Wow, he was making those ladies happy.
Right? I just want to go back to Martha. Shout out to his wife, Cydni. My goodness.
Oh my gosh. Actually, let's talk about Martha because I'm going to take this off track for a second. I was listening to, there's a really fun channel that has like weird history facts. So she wasn't too happy, I guess the same as George Washington, to have him be president. She wrote to her brother. She was so truly sorry to tell him that George was victorious in the election. And I loved that part as a wife because I thought, sometimes I feel that way when Ben has to coach soccer on Saturday mornings. You want to be that wife that's very supportive of these extra activities, like president or soccer coach. But sometimes you just are like, great, you're not even home long enough to tend to the garden. And now you have to go be a president or coach soccer at 8 a.m.,
Yeah.
Same thing.
It is the same thing.
But speaking of making the ladies happy too, he did write letters to other women.
Yes, he did.
And I loved that they shared these two. One is written about another woman. One is written about Martha. He said about another woman, and he's telling her, listen, this isn't going to work out because I am devoted to another lady. But P.S., he said, I feel the force of her amiable beauties in the recollection of 1,000 tender passages that I could wish to obliterate. That's what he writes, okay?
That's pretty passionate.
I know. But then what he wrote about Martha was that she was an animating prospect. I was like, no wonder she wasn't stoked about all of this.
No, she's like, get your butt home and quit dancing with the ladies.
Right? I know you got to make him happy, but how happy do you got to make him, George? Martha's at home. Anyway, back to his good character.
And his good character was that he was completely 100% devoted to his wife, Martha. The reason there's not a lot of letters going back and forth between the two of them is because upon George Washington's death, Martha gathered up all their love letters and she burned all of them. The reason she did this is because that was the only part of her life that was still kept private, and she wanted to keep it that way. So she burned all the letters. However, upon her death, when they were cleaning up the room, they pulled out a desk drawer, and behind it, a couple of letters had fallen out behind the drawer. And so that's really all the letters that we have between George and Martha Washington. I think this simple statement sums up how George Washington felt about Martha. He said, I retain an unalterable affection for you, which neither time or distance can change. And that's truly how George Washington felt about Martha. Anyway, back to the dancing. So his dancing wasn't just about fun. It was a way to build unity and boost morale among soldiers, officers, and civilians, especially the ladies, as we've learned. He understood that joy is not a distraction from duty. It's part of the fuel that sustains it. I get that statement because teaching is really hard sometimes. But when I could find joy in my classroom, it made it so much fun and everything was so much better when my attitude was that of joy. I could share it with my students and then it became so much fun. So leadership can also look like laughter, music, and movement. And I'm sure it made him more endearing to his soldiers and his fellow citizens, and it made him more human. There is a lot to mourn about during war, but Washington still made time to dance. He understood that God wants us to do our best to find joy in the moments of calm. If George Washington could make time to dance during a war, surely we can pause to enjoy the music in our own lives and dance.
When I was looking this up, I also just looked up the benefits of dancing, and there were so many, not just being active and staying fit, but a lot of people believe that dance promotes healing in different ways. This reminded me of a story that happened years ago. I worked at a gym and I sold memberships. So part of the process is you gave a tour around the gym and you asked specific questions. And I remember still vividly, this very funny woman comes in and she was just her own personality. She was honestly hilarious. She was just a full character of a person. And I asked her one of the questions, what are you currently doing for activity and wellness? And she said, well, sometimes when nobody is home, I go upstairs and I just dance. It was so funny. Nobody had ever said that before. And while we went on a tour of the gym, she danced everywhere. She danced up the stairs. When she got up, she did a twirl. She danced down the stairs. She danced in the gym and twirled. And I was like, this is so funny. I can't wait to tell everybody about this crazy woman. And I did. I was like, guess what? Let me tell you about my tour. So I did think it was funny. But years later, I realized that she was so free. She was the most free and happy person. And as I've learned more about just movement and what it does, one of the best things I've heard to explain it is we are made up of 70% water, as they say. But if water is stagnant, it starts to build bacteria. And you have to have flow. You have to have movement like an ocean or a river. And dance is a beautiful way to do that. Connecting all of this together, it's so funny to see someone seem so ridiculous, almost like you would make fun of, but then to realize how free and beautiful the movement is. And with that, we challenge you to really focus on the sentence that joy is not a distraction from duty. Add more joy to your duties. And we challenge you to find us in the church halls, 3 p.m., dance off, or else.
Every Sunday or every day?
Every day.
Every day.
Every day at 3 p.m. we'll be at the church, all of them. And we challenge you to a dance off.
This brings us to our final thoughts. As we continue through our July summer series, combining history and happiness, George Washington offers us a perfect example. Not only was he our first general and one of our most principled leaders, but he also knew how to embrace joy, even in the most difficult times. Washington didn't just lead through speeches and strategy. He led with joy, grace, and rhythm. His love of dancing wasn't just a personal pleasure. It was a purposeful act to lift spirits and foster unity. He made time to dance during a war, to bring light into darkness, and to remind others that joy can be found even in hard times. If the father of our country could make time for laughter, music, and movement in times of war, we can do the same in our own lives. So dance. Dance to celebrate, to connect, to heal, to feel alive, and allow joy to fill your heart. This is our prayer.
From Cydni and Sher.
I'm forging my way through the tip top. I'm living my life through the drip drop. When eternity's plan, I just can't stop. I'm making my way through the drip drop.
I feel like if George Washington listened to this, he'd be so mad at me. I was a little, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you would be.
I was telling him different stories. I was just like making up stories. What was I doing? Why was I doing this? Hold on a second. Let me try to remember. Oh.
I already messed up. Ecclesiastes. We used Ecclesiastes. Oh my gosh.
That I could wish to obliterate. What is it? Obliterate. That she was animating prospect. I could feel my throat just being like, oh.
Goodness, I can say words. Have a good week.
Bye.